I'm a 22-year-old woman, and about a month ago, I was browsing Craigslist looking for a couch for my new apartment. After scrolling through a bunch of overpriced or worn-out listings, I stumbled across one that seemed like a great deal. The photos showed a sleek, almost new-looking couch in excellent condition. Clean cushions, no visible stains or damage. It seemed perfect. The seller had listed an email for contact, mexicanpoppy@hotmail.com. I'll be honest, the email address immediately struck me as off. Not necessarily dangerous, just strange, like something a middle-aged man would make and never bother to change. Still, the price was good, and I figured it was just a harmless quirk. So I emailed him with my offer. To my surprise, he replied almost instantly. Within 5 minutes, he responded accepting my offer, and then asked for my home address so he could deliver it. That made me uncomfortable. There was no way I was giving my address to a total stranger off Craigslist. I replied and told him I'd prefer to come pick it up myself, but he kept insisting over and over again that he would bring it to me. Said it would be easier that way. The tone of his emails started to feel oddly persistent, pushy, almost desperate. I stopped replying altogether. A day later, he emailed me again. This time, he included his address, telling me to stop worrying and just come by to take a look. I hesitated. At that point, it should have been an obvious red flag. But something about the whole thing kept pulling at me. The price still felt like a steal, and the location wasn't too far, just a short drive across town. I kept telling myself I was overthinking it. Maybe he was just socially awkward. So I got in my van and drove over. His house was noticeably different from the others on the block. Smaller, darker, with an unkempt lawn and flaking paint around the windows. It looked like it hadn't been properly lived in for a while. I rang the doorbell. A man, probably in his late 40s, answered. He was wearing a faded baseball cap that shadowed part of his face, but he smiled wide, too wide, and immediately invited me in. The second I stepped inside, I regretted it. Something about the air in the house felt off, stale, thick, like it hadn't been aired out in weeks. The lighting was dim, just one old lamp casting shadows across the living room. And there it was, the couch. Only now, up close, I could see the reality. Scuff marks on the arms, faded fabric, tiny tears in the seams. It looked nothing like the photos, not even close. I pointed this out, trying to keep my tone polite. He just grinned at me again and said he'd lower the price. I shook my head. Thanks, but no, I'm not interested. That's when things took a turn. As I turned to walk back toward the front door, I felt his hand press down on my shoulder. Firm, too firm. He leaned in and said, "I'll give it to you for free if you're willing to give something to me." Those were his exact words. My stomach twisted. I stepped away from him and muttered something. I think it was Jesus, or maybe just a sound of disgust, and made a beeline for the door. I didn't look back, didn't say another word, just got in my van and drove, fast. I didn't breathe until I was halfway home. But that wasn't the end of it. Later that night, I was lying in bed watching TV, still trying to shake off the weirdness of what had happened. That's when I heard it. Heavy footsteps thudding up the porch steps. I sat up. I muted the TV, holding my breath. The footsteps stopped, replaced by the unmistakable sound of someone fiddling with the front doorknob. I froze. I crept out of bed, every muscle tense, and tiptoed to the door. I pressed my eye to the peephole, but no one was there. Just as I started to back away, I heard it again, the squeaky clang of the side gate to my backyard being pushed open, then closed. Panic surged through me. I ran to grab my phone and dialed 911. As the dispatcher picked up, I heard the doorknob on the back door start to rattle. I shouted toward it, my voice shaking, "The police are on their way!" Then, silence. A moment later, the sound of the gate creaking open echoed again. And then, nothing. He was gone. That was a month ago. Since then, nothing's happened. No knocks, no footsteps, no strange emails. But I haven't been able to sleep properly since that night. Every creak in the hallway, every rustle outside makes my skin crawl. I double-check every lock. I keep a bat by my bed. I'm almost certain it was him, the man selling the couch. He must have followed me home, tracked me, waited. There's no way it was just coincidence. I haven't used Craigslist since. I don't plan to. And now, I'm looking for a new apartment. Because even though it's quiet now, I don't feel safe anymore. I was looking for a car to buy for my son, something reliable for his 18th birthday. I browsed all the usual websites, cars.com, eBay Motors, but everything decent was overpriced, as expected. Craigslist seemed like my last shot at finding an actual deal. About a week into my search, I stumbled upon a listing for a Toyota Camry. It had only 67,000 miles, no reported accidents, no visible damage, and was listed in good condition, all for just $3,500. It honestly felt like a steal, too good to pass up. A reliable car with mileage that low for that price? I was surprised it hadn't been snatched already. The seller claimed to live about 10 miles from me, close enough for a quick visit. I gave him a call to set up a time to come see the car. The man on the other end sounded completely normal, calm, friendly. He assured me there were no mechanical issues, said he just wanted to sell it fast. He introduced himself as Bob. I grabbed $3,500 in cash, though I planned to negotiate, and headed out, hoping to shave a few hundred off the asking price. His place was off a dirt road, maybe 15 minutes from my house, secluded but not suspiciously so. The house was small, worn but neat, sitting on a decent chunk of land, far enough from the nearest neighbors that it felt isolated. As I pulled in, I noticed the garage door was wide open. I walked over, hoping to spot the car, but there was no Camry in sight. Instead, the garage was cluttered with car parts, racks of them, tires, bumpers, random bits of engine, too many for a casual hobbyist. The only vehicle on the property was an old, rust-bitten pickup truck sitting off to the side. I checked the house number. It matched, right address. The doorbell was broken, just a hole where the button should have been, so I knocked on the front door. I stood there for 5 minutes, knocking periodically. No response. Finally, I decided to call Bob. I dialed the number he gave me and froze when I heard a cell phone ringing from inside the house. Now I knew for sure I was at the right place. But if he was home, why wasn't he answering? I stepped to the side and tried to peer through a nearby window. It was difficult to see much, dark inside, no lights on, but I could make out a dining room with antique furniture, old and formal looking. The whole interior gave off a museum-like stillness. And then I saw him. A man standing completely still near the back door of the house, facing outward toward the yard. Just standing there, not moving. I figured it had to be Bob. I knocked on the window to get his attention. He didn't flinch, didn't turn around, didn't move at all. There was no gate or fence around the backyard, just a wide open lawn. The area was rural enough that backyard privacy wasn't a concern. So I walked around the house to the back door, feeling more confused than concerned. I called out to him. Nothing. And then I got close enough to see the truth, and I stopped cold. That wasn't Bob. The figure standing at the door wasn't alive. It was a taxidermied human being, posed upright, hands at its sides, its face locked in a blank, vacant stare. My heart dropped. I didn't think. I just turned and ran, straight back the way I came. I sprinted to my car, fumbled with the keys, and got inside. As I slammed the door shut and turned the engine over, I looked up one last time, at the window I'd peeked through earlier. The blinds were closed now, but two of the slats had been bent open. Someone was watching me. Someone had seen me at that window. I floored it. My tires kicked up dust and gravel as I tore back down that dirt road, heart pounding, vision shaking. Even now, it all makes no sense. The car parts, the missing Toyota, the perfectly silent house, that grotesque figure at the back door. The absence of the Camry leads me to one inescapable conclusion. There never was a car. Whoever Bob was, if that was even his name, he was never planning to sell anything. And the thought that's haunted me ever since is this. I was very close to becoming another lifeless figure staring out from that house. About a year ago, I was looking to buy an iPhone 5. I'd been checking around online when I came across a guy on Craigslist offering one for $200. He claimed it was in mint condition, said he just wanted to upgrade to the 5C. I didn't know much about checking phones to make sure everything worked properly, so I asked my little brother to tag along. He was way more tech-savvy than me. We arranged to meet halfway at a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. The time? Around 10 o'clock at night. Not ideal, I know, but I figured public places were safe enough. We pulled in and parked. Not long after, a black Honda Civic rolled up and stopped a few spots over. Two large, intimidating-looking guys stepped out and made their way toward us. One of them held out the phone. It looked flawless, screen clean, no cracks, not even a scuff. My brother took my SIM card and popped it into the phone, running a quick test. After a minute or two, he nodded. It works. Then came the twist. The guy, the one selling it, suddenly asked for $250, even though the ad had clearly said $200. I lied, told him I only had $200 on me. Truth was, I had the full $250, but I didn't like the switch-up. Felt shady, like he was trying to squeeze me last minute. He didn't seem too happy about it, but after a few seconds of uncomfortable silence, he took the cash. He and his friend turned and got back into their car. We climbed into mine. I started testing the phone again. Called my girlfriend to make sure the call function worked. Everything seemed good. While I was poking around in the settings, my brother glanced out the window and said, "They haven't left." I shrugged.
Maybe they're just finishing something up. But 5 minutes later, we pulled out of the lot, and so did they. I didn't think too much of it at first. Coincidences happen, right? I turned onto the turnpike, and they followed. My brother pointed it out again. They started their car the second you did. That's when I started to feel it. That tight sensation in your chest, the one that makes you suddenly hyper-aware of your surroundings. We hit a red light, and when I checked my rearview mirror, the black Honda Civic was right behind us. I was confused. Hadn't they come from the other direction? It didn't add up.
I continued driving home, taking my usual route. Every single turn I made, they followed, always right behind me. No honks, no flashing headlights, just silent, steady pursuit. My brother whispered, "I think they're following us." I already knew. He told me to pull over. I shook my head. No way. That was the last thing I was going to do. My gut was screaming that they were looking for trouble. At this point, I started driving erratically, taking fast turns, changing streets last second. I was trying to lose them, and I knew it was risky. Then I made a snap decision. We approached an intersection just as the light turned red. Without hesitation, I floored it, raced through before the cross traffic had a chance to move. My brother yelled, called me crazy, but I didn't care. I checked the mirror. They hadn't followed. I exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. The rest of the drive home was long. We took back roads, circled around, made sure no one was behind us. When we finally pulled into our driveway, I was still shaking, heart hammering inside my chest. But at least the phone worked, I thought. I'd gotten a good deal. Or so I told myself. Later that night, I was up alone, messing with the phone, setting things up, installing apps. Everyone else in the house, my parents and brother, had gone to bed. That's when I heard it. 2 car doors slamming shut. I froze. Slowly, I stepped to my window and peeked outside. My stomach dropped. That same black Honda Civic was parked directly across the street, headlights off, just sitting there. And I could only assume those 2 guys were already halfway to our front door. I bolted out of my room and shook my dad awake. I spit out the story in a rushed mess of words. Craigslist, phone, parking lot, the drive, everything. My dad got up fast, grabbed a baseball bat, and crouched behind the front door. Then, a knock. Not a timid one, a loud, aggressive pound. My dad shouted through the door, told them to get the hell off our property. One of them called back, "We have a gun. Open the door or we'll shoot the lock off." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My dad yelled for me to call Joe, our neighbor 2 doors down. Joe's a cop, off duty, but always on alert. I called him with shaking hands, told him everything. "Stay hidden," Joe said. "I'm coming." Then, a muffled gunshot. Not loud like in movies, it sounded suppressed. I looked up and saw the front door had a fresh bullet hole, inches from where my dad had been crouching. He scrambled back, eyes wide. We held our breath. Seconds later, we heard Joe outside. "Drop your weapons," he barked. The guys froze. My dad rushed outside to help once their guns were lowered. Joe got them on the ground and cuffed them. Both were armed. Both meant business. Joe took them in and called it in officially. That night still replays in my head. It was the scariest moment of my life, but also, in the weirdest way, the most relieved I've ever felt. I got lucky. A working phone, yeah, but also a second chance. Because if Joe hadn't lived 2 doors down, I might not be here to tell this story.